Rhea Chakraborty has reached the Narcotics Control Bureau office in Mumbai to face a third round of questioning that the NCB officials have lined up for her after clocking almost 14 hours in the last 2 days and getting more and more details from her on the entire drug angle which has emerged in the backdrop of Sushant Singh Rajput's death case. Let's go across to our reporter straight away. Mohit Sharma is reporting from outside the NCB office, and he in fact has been tracking interrogation of Rhea Chakraborty over the last 2 days as well. Mohit, at the end of the day, everyone just looks forward to those brief interactions that NCB officials have with media, where quickly they don't actually reveal much about the interrogation, but they yesterday said that overall we can say that she's been cooperating in the interrogation because she's coming here, she's putting in her presence, but there is a strategy by which it seems that they are approaching the case. Yesterday, she was brought face to face with her brother. Are we going to see a repeat of something like that today?
Well, of course, Preeti, that's really has been the chain of sequence. First and foremost, it was the NCB which had questioned her, so as to get a better perspective of what exactly was her role and what does she really have to say about everything that has transpired so far. They wanted to understand as to how she actually met Sushant Singh Rajput, and whether or not she was well aware of the others, the so-called friends of Showik Chakraborty, who in fact were dealing in drugs as well. She was in fact she was questioned along with the various chats that have been discovered in the digital devices which have been secured from Samuel Miranda as well as from the house of Showik Chakraborty as well. So all of those are something that she was questioned about. Now in those chats it was very clear that in one of the chats it was very clear that she was in fact sending Samuel Miranda, and Samuel Miranda was the one who was actually getting the consignment of drugs into the house of Sushant Singh Rajput. Now the amount of the sheer quantity of drugs is something that has left the NCB officers very confused. They are trying to understand as to how is it that 20 to 24-year-olds managed to secure and procure such huge amounts of drugs. Whether in fact they were a part of a bigger drug nexus, whether they were a part of a bigger drug cartel or not, and that's precisely something that they want to understand from Rhea as well. Since Showik Chakraborty has in fact confessed that he did ensure that Zaid Vilatra was introduced and was invited to certain B-town Bollywood town celebrity parties. They want to now probe into that matter as well, whether the door of these parties, the door of the B-town celebrity world was opened by Rhea Chakraborty or not. So all of these questions were asked by Rhea Chakraborty, and once
that
again,
perhaps is also important in stitching the sequence, really, the way Narcotics Control Bureau is approaching this entire matter. Let me go across to Tamal as well, who's also reporting from outside the NCB office in Mumbai. And Tamal, apart from Rhea Chakraborty and all those who are already in the custody of NCB, can we also expect now Shruti Modi to be someone next by the Narcotics Control Bureau?
Well, I did ask the same question to NCB officials yesterday, and no other than the chief of Maharashtra NCB, M.A. Jain, as whether there are possibility of fresh summons being given to other individuals. But then now they are saying that there is no room for speculation at this point in time, that they would only be summoning people when it's required. So at this point in time, the focus is essentially on Rhea Chakraborty. Having said that, I would also like to say that they have not ruled out the possibility completely of issuing fresh summons to people like Shruti Modi, Jaya Sai. Why? Because they have engaged in communication and conversation with Rhea Chakraborty that possibly indicate that they were also interested in drugs. They were also interested in marijuana. So that possibly might give a scope to the NCB to in a way go ahead and find out from them what was the nature of their interest, whether it was for personal consumption, whether it was for commercial interest, or it had some other kind of motive. Mind it, in Sushant Singh Rajput's death investigation, the essential focus is now on motive, whether there has been any criminal motive, a motive that waded through consumption, procurement, peddling, and also manipulation with drugs. So these things are under the scanner. At this point in time, Rhea Chakraborty has gone inside the NCB building, and she had entered at around 10:35 precisely, and her questioning possibly would begin sometime now. See, yesterday it was a long 8 hours questioning session. Today we're expecting the day could be as long as yesterday. We know NCB officials are trying to maintain the time, because if there is no requirement of an arrest, then possibly they would be deciding that or deciding a release by the sunset, keeping in mind there are certain disciplines laws in place specifically for women accused. So at this point in time, Rhea Chakraborty has gone inside. We know Mohit had explained the kind of questioning she had faced yesterday, but then the principal focus now is on the conspiracy part, as what kind of conspiracy had been hatched, and in terms of drugs, and as whether Rhea Chakraborty had been equally complicit in such a conspiracy. So we have to wait for the investigation to begin. But the big question is how long? How long will the questioning last today, and how will be this Tuesday?
Of course, we'll track all of that with you all, Tamal. But